This is Mary Kelly with Productive Leaders, and you're listening to The Speaking Show with David Newman.
I am here with Mary Kelly, certified speaking professional, among your many other designations. Welcome to the show, my friend.
I am thrilled to be back with you, David.
So basically, anything I ever do, here, there, or anywhere, I always have to interview you simply so I can keep up and catch up with all of your adventures. And so, every 6 months, we find some reason to do something, interview, pick Mary's brain, figure out where in the world is Mary Kelly, like where in the world is Carmen Sandiego, the whole thing. It's going to be awesome. So leadership and economics are your two big things. Take us on the professional journey of kind of how that came to be and what brought you to that expertise that you share with the world today.
Well, many people, as you know, mix up the ideas of profitability and running a business. It's not what you make, it's what you get to keep after you make it. And it's all about profitability. Revenue is great, but you can be making great revenue and not be making any profit. So my whole focus is making sure leadership understands what they need to do to be as profitable as possible. And the economics background helps people make the decisions they need in order to, again, make the good leadership decisions so they can be profitable. I'm all about the profit growth.
Let's talk about the baby speakers for a second.
Yes.
These emerging speakers who might be very successful in their previous career, but then they launch their entrepreneurial thing like you did. And they say, well, I have all this different expertise. How do I pick or how do I overlap? And what you've done is you've done what you just explained is this brilliant overlap between leadership and economics and working with company leaders who want to be more effective and productive and profitable. When you look at your career in hindsight, every step and every experience has led you to where you are today because you could put the puzzle pieces together effectively. When people don't know kind of what the puzzle pieces are or what value they can add as a consultant, as a speaker, what are some things that you would have them look at or review in their head?
Well, and this is one of the hardest things I think for emerging and even current speakers is taking your expertise and whittling it down so that your buying audience understands what it is you provide and what it does to their audience. So I have to tell you, when I first started out and I started my business, my first paid speaking engagement was the day the Lehman Brothers fell back in September 2008. Not the best time to prop a business. But this is where ignorance is bliss. And when you don't know any better, you just don't worry about it. And I was an economist and I knew that we were heading into a low point. And frankly, it's kind of like real estate agents in Florida. When the market is booming, right now there's 120,000 people who are part of the Florida Realtor Association. When the market is down, that drops to about 1/3. So when the market is down, it gets rid of people in certain industries that possibly shouldn't be there in the first place. So whenever you started your business, yay you. That's number one. And then the second part is figuring out how it is you're going to take what you do well and sell it to your buying audience. So in my case, there's only about, 83 million people out there who talk about leadership. My differentiation is I got my leadership experience by serving on active duty for 25 years in the Navy. But then I couple that with my background in economics. I have a PhD in economics, and I mostly focus on macro issues that impact industry. So then you go, okay, well, that's kind of two very separate things. How do you put them together? And so again, I put it together in something called Futurenomics, which is get the economic data you need to make the leadership decisions that are going to make your business profitable. And so when I couple that together, people get it. They go, oh, it's all about the profitability. Yes. And many people think, oh, profitability means I'm cutting people, I'm cutting resources. No, that's not how you grow a business. You grow a business by hiring the right people to do the right jobs at the right time to the right customers. But that's not what some people see. So, and it took me a while to figure out, okay, if I'm going to compete with the other gazillion leadership speakers out there, how am I going to differentiate myself? And that's how I've done that. So it's not just what you know, it's what you know that people will buy that is different from everybody else.
Yeah, so true. And our mutual friend, Scott McCain, who's been on the show, talks about distinction and talks about being iconic. And that's his new book now. The way that you talk about it and the way that I talk about it is very, very similar. It's not like you have to have some crazy harebrained, out of left field nutbag idea. It's about the overlap, right? So, Mary, what you did is I'm going to overlap 25 years of leadership in the US Navy with my PhD in economics, focused on teaching leaders how to be more profitable and more effective. So it's, the phrase that I sometimes teach my clients is fill in the following. My work is really at the intersection of A, B, and C. So if I were to say this for, David Newman world, my work is at the intersection of marketing, sales, and business development for speakers and experts and thought leading professionals. Great. So right now, there's a million sales trainers out there. Like you said, there's a million leadership speakers. There's a million marketing coaches. There's a million business development experts. What can we claim that is your unique 1+2+3 that does add the distinction like Scott talks about, and that does make you a category of one, like Joe Calloway talks about? We're quoting all of our NSA buddies here with these great little taglines. But that's really, really important. Otherwise, you become the same old lame-o commodity, right?
That's it. So I'm fond of telling people that, we're the chocolate cake or the cheesecake at dessert. When somebody books us, if I'm not available, they're going to find somebody else. Or if somebody else isn't available, they're going to maybe find me. Chocolate cake versus the cheesecake. We're interchangeable until we're not. In my case, my meeting planners sometimes will go, okay, I've got a really tough audience. These are people who they hate everybody. They've seen everybody, people that we think are amazing. They're like, yeah, they're just not impressed. They want everything. They want it now. I love the hard audiences. I love difficult audiences. I love people like that because I show up with content, data that other people just don't have, just don't get anywhere else. And then I relate that to what they need to grow their business. And all of a sudden it becomes a very smart program. So it gets people's attention and then they go, and it's something I can use. I love our motivational friends. I do love that. Motivation, I say, is like a glass of water. You can't always see when you're running low and you need it every day. But what I do is very, very different. It's very high content. It's very high energy. It's very fast paced. The best compliment I got last week was from a CEO of a credit union. And he said, Mary wrapped up the conference, so she had the last hour of the day, and I really had to go to the bathroom, but I didn't want to leave because I didn't want to miss anything. I think it was the best compliment I've ever gotten.
I make CEOs not want to pee.
That's right. That's right.
.com.
That's it. .com.
I think that is a compelling value proposition. Well, Mary, tell us about the scary aspect of prospecting. Oh my gosh, I have to reach out to some clients. I have to reach out to some meeting planners. I have to reach out to some companies who might possibly want to hire me. I think a lot of speakers and experts and trainers are terrified of outreach and they're even terrified of prospecting. You are not, and you seem to have this down pretty well. What are some outreach and prospecting secrets that you might share?
Well, some of those prospecting secrets I have learned, of course, came from you, as you know. So really quickly, I had been getting your newsletters. I saw you speak at an NSA conference. I had been getting all of your emails for years and years. And finally, I just called you up and I was like, look, I don't even know what I need in my business, but you're awesome. And I've gotten so much value from you that I need to write you a check. So just tell me what I should buy and I need to write you a check because I owe you for helping me grow my business all these years. So I will tell you that I am not afraid of much in terms of how fear works. Terrorists, I'm really comfortable with, as you know. The military teaches you not to be afraid. However, the military also teaches you that you need to be humble and you don't self-promote. Now, if you don't self-promote in this business, you get no business. And that's one of the things I had to learn. And I learned it the hard way. Many of us have piles and piles of business cards. We have emails that say, hey, call me about this. Or somebody says, yes, I'd really like you to talk to this. The critical mistake I made early on, David, was I thought this business was, and it is, it's kind of like dating. But I thought, well, if you like me, you'll call me. That's not how it works. If you like me, it's my responsibility to stay in touch with you. Again, somebody near and dear to us might have said, your clients are not tired of hearing from you. They're tired of hearing about you from you. So part of my outreach was, it goes something like this, Dear Joe Bob, I saw this article about your company, and it seems like this is kind of what's going on. I have an article that might be helpful to your team. And here's the attached article. Now, the article, of course, is perfectly formatted. It looks lovely. It's a handout that they can just print out and send to their team. It's not just like a blog article that somebody plunked off of a thing. It's a formatted article that addresses their pain point. And if I'm really clever, I may go in and say, and Joe Bob Company, blah, 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 well known for doing blah, 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 blah. And then they go, look, she cited us in the article. So it's very personalized, highly relevant to the problem they're having right now or the situation, or it's a recognition. So it's all about them. And this, again, I think Joe Calloway does great. It's all about them. We say it's the economy, stupid, but it's really all about them. It's like the economy. People only care about the economy as it relates to them. If you have a great job, your kids have a great job, they're not living in your basement, you think everything's going great. If you can't find a job, your kids are in the basement, and you're fighting about money all the time, the economy's in the toilet. It's exactly the same with people who hire us. It has to be about them and their needs, not, oh, look at me and what I can do, because nobody cares.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, let's say that we don't have these emails, we don't have these requests, we don't have these business cards. When you're looking to develop new business, like brand new relationship, whether it's with an association, whether it's with a company, whether it's with a conference that you'd like to speak at, how could people get braver about some of that initial knocking on doors and opening those doors where there may be future business for them?
So a few things. First, get over your happy little self that says, oh gosh, I can't do this. And I'm the first one to say it took me a long time, but you have to get over it. You're like, okay, do I want business, or do I want to just sit here in misery and wait for a phone that never rings to ring? Because that you can sit around and do that all day long and get no business. The plus side of that is you don't have to worry about travel problems, but you also don't have any business. So then the second thing is you target the people who are the best fit for you. That doesn't mean they're the people most like you. It's the people who need you the most. I'm bad on the phone, but once I get people on the phone, we're great. Others of our friends say, if I can get them on the phone, I can close it. I'm never that confident, but I will call up somebody and say, hey, I saw that you had this conference and you had, Mark Sanborn at your last conference. I think he's amazing. He delivers a great message on this, that, whatever. I'm wondering if you're looking for somebody for next year. I've got some ideas for you if you loved Mark, which of course you did. Here's 2 other people who might be good. And oh, by the way, this is the message that I did. So there's a certain approach to that. The second way to do that is to simply send an email that says, hi, my name is, and, I'd like to share with you, these 10 points on whatever, because I just did your other association's chapter in Minnesota and you're in Iowa. And these were some of their testimonials. And here's some of the 10 points I covered. Would this be something your group might be interested in? And so now you've got the basis of social proof, which they liked. And then you've got, oh, here's the 10 points. And all of a sudden it becomes, oh gosh, this just made my meeting planning easy. And this is where I think many speakers approach it too much like dating and not enough like a business. Is they say, oh gosh, if I bother that meeting planner, then what will they think of me? I'm like, no, see, you're solving, in economics, we call it the search activity problem. People are looking for people they're trying to do business with. You're looking for good people. We're always looking for the right people to do business with. I realize I end that in a preposition. However, you're solving their problem. I did a job for South Dakota Group. And they were very reticent to talk to me. They said, we're talking to a lot of speakers, really pushed me off on the back burner. But the reason they were pushing me off on the back burner is because they knew that I was doing the fall conference for North Dakota. And the North Dakota person said, oh yeah, we've been in contact with that guy from South Dakota. And he says he's basically waiting for the report card for you before he talks to you any further. And I was like, oh, okay. So it's not just social proof, it's personal proof. They want the personal recommendation from somebody else that they know. So if you can just get into one, and let's say you have no business at all, and this is where another speaker's introduction can be really, really helpful. So you say, you know what? I saw Mary Kelly talk last week in North Dakota, and I got to tell you, the audience loved her. She hit these 10 points that they really liked, and she might be a really good fit for your organization. So if you can find other speakers who have heard you speak, or other professionals who can hear you speak, or other members of that association, and they can give you a warm introduction, that's how I would start. If I had no business at all today, David, I would reach out to 10 people I know, 10 people who have seen me speak. And if nobody's seen me speak, I'm going to go to the Rotary and the Kiwanis and the Seroptimus and the local church. I don't care who it is. I'll go to the first grade class and I will get 10 people in that audience who can see what I do. And then I would ask those 10 people, I would say, here's an email introduction for me. Would you please consider sending it to these specific people? And I would go online. I would say, how well do you know these people? Would you feel comfortable sending them an email introduction to me? So if I had nothing at all, that's where I'd start. I'd start with 10 people who could each give me one introduction, and then maybe 2 introductions, and then maybe 3 introductions. Now I've got 30 introductions. And if I can't get them with the link to my video, something that illustrates the 10 points of one of my programs, program introduction, if in those 30 people, if I can't get any interest at all, then I've got to look at my marketing. Ooh, where do I go for help with that?
I wish I knew.
So that was kind of a long answer to a short question.
No, that's great. I mean, that also shows that it's proactive, it's scrappy. You're going to do whatever it takes, no matter where you are in the process, right? People say, well, I'm not like Mary. I don't have this huge track record of success. I don't have all these great bureau relationships. I don't have 30 high-powered friends in the National Speakers Association who would vouch for me in about 12 seconds. So how do I start? And you just gave the brilliant answer. That's exactly how you would start, is scrappy, grassroots, put yourself out there in harm's way, and then leverage the people who have seen you in any context to tee you up with a specific kind of introduction to a specific list of kind of dream clients or your wish list of where you would like to get hired, so that you start to make it happen and you don't sit around waiting or wishing for it to happen.
That's right. And so you have to remember, I got out of the Navy on the 1st of September of 2008. I didn't have a corporate background. I knew how to run big budgets. I knew how to run we call it big budgets, big people, big buildings, big locations. So I knew how to do things that would translate well into the business world, but I didn't know anything about this speaking business, and I didn't have a corporate client background. I didn't have a client list. I had nothing. I walked out of the Navy, and remember back then, I had a security clearance, which meant I could have no social media until after I got out. I had nothing. I started with 0. And so that's one of those things where you say, okay, what do I have? Well, I knew how to work hard. I knew how to organize my day. I knew how to be productive. I knew how to schedule things. So I looked at how I grew up in a family business. So there are certain parts of the business side that the scrappiness, I think I did inherit from my parents because they were pretty scrappy. But the other part of it was I didn't have a list. I didn't have any of that. I started with 0 social media on the 1st of September, 2008, 0 everything, 0 client base, nothing. And got my first paid job on, 22 days later, 23 days later. And partly it was just throwing it out there and saying, this is what I am going to do. This is what I want to do. And then changing the verb, which is, this is what I am doing. And then the other part is that a lot of us, we say, can you help me? Now, there's 2 kinds of people who say, can you help me? There's the people who say, can you help me because I'm just not willing to do it myself and I'm very whiny about it. No, nobody wants to. This is what I am doing. Can you please offer some advice or direction, which is very different? And then thank you very much. And what can I do for you? And that's reciprocal. That's quid pro quo. That's not showing up just to take. And I think that's really, really powerful. And many people miss that. Somebody said, are you a keynote or a breakout? And I was like, I'll show up and do whatever you need. I had no idea what that meant. I was like, I didn't know if I was signing up to clean floors and toilets. I had no idea. I was like, I'm going to show up and do whatever you need.
Whatever you need. Exactly. Hey, good looking. Are you currently getting paid to speak? Would you like to ramp that up? We can help. Book a confidential speaker strategy call with our team at doitmarketing.com/call, and let's see what we might do together. The call is free, but the results may be priceless. And let's stay on the track of these mistakes for a quick second.
Yes.
What are some of these other mistakes that you see a lot of speakers and entrepreneurial experts making? You mentioned earlier about really treating this like a business. I know that's one of your pet peeves. What else around that?
Also, warm leads get cold quickly. I learned that, of course, from Lori Guest. And she says, a warm lead gets cold really fast. You got to jump on that. So follow up, follow up, follow up. even if it's not perfect. You have to make time after an event, especially after a big event, to do nothing but follow up for the next 8 to 10 hours. And if you don't have a team in place, you're the team, and that means you do it. And that means you send an email. I tried batch emailing. No, it's got to be individual emails to the people who say, I really liked you. I'd like to bring you in. And again, I thought, well, if you like me and you want to bring me in, you'll call me. That is not the case. Having a good CRM is key. CRMs now have never been easier. They're much easier now than they were 10 years ago. Get a good CRM, use it faithfully every single time. Scan in business cards, figure it out, send them to Fancy Hands or somebody else to upload for you. Whatever makes it easy for you to do that outreach, you got to do that. I didn't plan enough time after events to just sit and follow up. I was kind of moving on to the next one. Or I'd go, oh, I want to change that in my PowerPoint. Okay, changing your PowerPoint is not nearly as important as the follow-up. Nothing is as important as the follow-up when someone says they want to hire you. So that's a critical mistake I made early on, was not having a good system for follow-up and not having a CRM or a process in place that made it easy for me to do that and keep track of that. That's probably the biggest mistake I've made that's cost me the most money.
Yeah, for
I got a
sure.
whole bunch of others. So yeah.
And then I think there's also an element that you touched on a moment ago, which is about people not willing to do the work. So I'll tell you, the one question that just makes me insane when people are considering working with us, for example, is, well, how much time is this going to take? And my answer is, this is your business, dude. This is the work of the work you should be doing anyway. Right? A lot of people say, well, I'm going to sign up for this coaching program or this mentorship program. It's going to be extra work. I don't have time for that extra work. It's like, whatever you're doing now that's not working, stop doing that. It takes however long it takes. People go, well, I only have a couple hours a week. Imagine owning a restaurant and saying, I only have a couple hours a week. Imagine owning a retail store. I only have a couple hours a week. Imagine running a plumbing company. I only have a couple hours a week. Are you kidding me? I mean, that's one of my triggers. As you can see right now, I'm getting pretty hot and bothered about it. So because you work with leaders, because you work with entrepreneurs, because you work on profitability, what is it with these lazy SOBs? Don't they realize this takes an overwhelming amount of focus and work and energy on their part to make it happen?
I love those people though, David. I love the people who don't want to put in the work, because as Jeannie Robertson says, you know what? I'll outwork you. And that's it. I mean, I have two superpowers. One is I can drink like a sailor. And the second thing is I know how to work, and I know how to work hard. And I also know how to triage the work and SDS, stop doing stupid. So there's people who are not willing to put in the work. This is why we've got the turn and burn rate that we do in this business, is because there are a lot of people who say, well, but I was making, 10 bananas by working 40 hours a week at my other job. Well, guess what? This is entrepreneurship. And there is no 40-hour work week. And if you're not willing to put in the time, to me, that's awesome, because that's more business I'm going to get.
Right,
because
exactly.
I'm going to outwork you. And you know how I work. I mean, 12, 14, 16-hour days are pretty common. And when people say, well, I don't work Saturdays and Sundays and I take every Monday off, I'm like, okay, that's great. And this is never going to work for us. It's just not.
It's not even about that you have to put in an exorbitant amount of hours. But when people say, I'm not sure I have time for this, what other business, so the two big things that really tick me off, they're not willing to spend time and they're not willing to spend money. Name another entrepreneurial venture that does not take any time and does not cost you any money. You open a restaurant, you're spending $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 right up front on day one before you've made a dime for building out the restaurant, hiring the staff, putting in the decor, doing the menu, buying the food, and all the licensing, all the regulatory stuff you have to do with the health department. You're spending major, major money before you sell your first hamburger. And then somehow people think in this business, they go to Kinko's, they print up some business cards, and boom, they're going to make, $20,000 a month on day one.
Well, and Tim kind of, gave people this idea with the 4-hour work week, that you could have a 4-hour work week. No, you can't. The whole premise of that book was outsource what you can. It wasn't only work 4 hours a week. That's not what this is.
Right.
And the other part of this is many people say, well, I'll just use this other material from somebody else. That makes me insane. That makes me a little bit crazy. There are things that a lot of us have said throughout the years, but guess what? If somebody's first in a book by saying it, you got to give them credit for that. Even if you've been using it for years, you don't get to use other people's stuff. You can mention other people's stuff, but you got to credit them with it. And there's that part of it too. Some people just don't have original material. I'm like, no, people, use your own stuff. Use your own stories. If you don't have original stuff and your stuff isn't that interesting, then maybe it's not for you. And that's okay. That's perfectly okay. A lot of people are very happy doing other things. And I encourage people to do those other things. But, use what is unique about you. And this goes back to that differentiation aspect. That the reason we go to one restaurant over another is because they don't have the same burgers and the same fries and the same grilled cheese sandwiches. We want different. And I think our audiences want different as well. We want somebody who is going to make us think, somebody who's going to spark us to innovation. We want people who are going to motivate us to do something in a different way and be better than the selves we were when we walked in. And this is so powerful to me because every single speaker, even that we get to see, and we're so lucky because we get to see the cream of the crop. Every single speaker you go, okay, if I can get one takeaway from that, just one takeaway, or, ooh, what a good approach, or look how they did that. Your $20 thing was always a fun one for me. And that really helped me with my sales mindset. And you're like, really, 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 would you be willing to spend $10 on this? And there's a $20 bill in the cup.
Yeah.
And because you're so passionate about selling it, because you know that if they give you $10, they're going to get a $20 bill back. And so it's easy to sell that because you believe in it so strongly. And that was a great lesson for me because when it came time to selling me, I kind of did defer to that military thing. Oh, my boss, my other people are supposed to sell me, not me.
Right.
Well, guess what? If I'm not convinced that I am the absolute best fit for that organization, nobody else is going to believe it either.
Right. Exactly right. Well, talking about crediting some big ideas and some big influences, let's talk about some of your favorite books. What are some favorite books that you'd recommend? They're just, your go-to books on your bookshelf that you recommend for other folks that are wanting to get sharper at all of these things we've been talking about.
So I struggle with the ask. I struggle with asking for referrals. So I found the Bill Gates books way before I found Bill Gates. And so I got those books, and every time he writes a book, I get it, I read it, it's on my Kindle. I have it on my calendar every year to just refresh that because his way of asking for the ask is superb. And so that's Don't Keep Me a Secret and that whole series by Bill Gates.
And let's be
Mark
clear,
Hunter,
because Bill always likes to say it's Bill Gates with a C, not Bill Gates with a G. It's Bill Gates with a C.
Gates.
Gates.
Yeah. Is there somebody named Bill Gates? I'm not sure I know them.
Yeah, little guy, big glasses.
Yeah, big glasses. And then, of course, I love anything by Mark Hunter because he does sales stuff, high profit prospecting, high profit selling. Of course, the guy's a genius. He writes well. Just read the book, get the book. It gets you into the sales mindset.
Yes. And by the way, Mark was podcast episode number 1.
Yes, he's awesome. If there's still anybody in your listenership who does not have Do It Marketing, they need to buy that book and hit themselves over the head with it 10 times for not getting it sooner. That to me is just one of the best books ever. Just hit them over the head with it. Yeah, that should be the Bible. Every single speaker needs that as a Bible. You do it. Just sit down, do the stuff you outline. It's just not that hard. I just wonder how many people, entrepreneurs, speakers, business people, have made so many mistakes because they followed the wrong advice, didn't read the stuff they were supposed to read. If you get 10 great books, really great ones, and you take that advice, you can do well. You don't have to read 1,000, just 10. So Do It Marketing, Mark Hunter, Bill Gates. I love The Only Negotiating Guide You'll Ever Need by Peter Stark. As you know, I'm a big fan of Peter's, and his book, The Competent Leader, is also just superb for leadership. But The Only Negotiating Guide You'll Ever Need also tells you what, when somebody comes back and says, we don't have your fee. It's very easy for some of us to go, okay, well, what do you have? Oh, you have, 11 kiwi fruit. Okay, that's great. All right, I'll take that. And maybe a cup of coffee. So he does it in a way that is so not pushy and not in your face. I love that as well. Alan Weiss on how to build proposals. I think that's terrific. If you've never done a proposal before, the book is expensive. So go to the library and get it if you don't want to spend the money, and sit there for a day and read that book. And then keep up with the stuff that's in your industry. I saw a horrific statistic that said most people after high school never read a whole book. Well, then what are you doing? So you got to be smart. You got to read stuff. And in terms of building a business, Mark LeBlanc's stuff is super solid on Grow Your Business. I put together the book, 15 Ways to Grow Your Business in Every Economy, because I was speaking at the GSF in Amsterdam, the little wherever town outside of Amsterdam. And Ted Rogers, do you remember him out of Arizona?
I do, sure.
He was in Denver for his daughter's volleyball tournament, and I went up to have a glass of wine with him. He said, "What are you going to talk about in Amsterdam?" And I kind of laid it out, and I had everything together as handouts. And he said, "These are a lot of handouts." I said, "Yeah, there's about 25, 30 pages of handouts to help other speakers build their business." He said, "Why isn't this a book?" And I said, "Well, why would I put it in a book?" And he said, "Because it's easier to carry around, and it's easier for people to use if it's all together. Handouts don't work so well." I was like, "Oh, so I need to put this in a book?" And he goes, "Yeah." And that was February, and the conference was in April. And I said, "Okay, I'm going to have to finish my wine and go home now, because I now have to work on this book." And the very first copy of the book I finally saw in Amsterdam, because it was shipped to Amsterdam. I'd never even seen him before. And that book, because I was doing it for other people on how they should grow their business, it forced me to look at my business the same way.
Oh my gosh, for sure.
That was really helpful. And so I put that book together as well. And that's still, even now, when I get stuck, I look at my own book. Now, that sounds so stupid, but I go, wait a minute, there was a good idea in here. And I pull out that book and go, oh yeah, that's what I need to be doing.
I always make that joke with our speaker buddies. I just say, imagine how successful we would be if we actually implemented what was in our own books.
It's totally true.
Like, wow, chapter 4 is awesome. It's like, dude, you wrote chapter 4. I know, but I need to do this.
Because it's so easy, I think, to get caught up in the fun parts of our business.
Right.
And the parts that we love to do, like the podcast, like the VOEs, like the interviews. It's so easy to get caught up into this. But then you have to look at, okay, what is going to make us money? And that's the one thing that I challenge people when I talk to chapters is wake up in the morning and say, okay, what 3 things am I going to do today that's going to generate income?
Yeah.
And all these other things that we do, you have to triage them and say, okay, so if my newsletter is not actually generating income today, and there are 3 other things that I can do that will, or I've got people who want to book me and they say, please respond, and I'm waiting 3 days to respond, what am I doing? Because they're going to call 3 other people.
Exactly.
You have to do the things that's going to make money, even if it makes you uncomfortable. And then on that uncomfortable level, and you've done this too, you look at it and say, okay, there's 10 things I don't want to do. I just don't want to do it. But then what I do is on my productivity week, I started to put the minutes next to it that it would take you to do, such as send email to Joe Schmuckatelli on this. That's going to take me on average 4 minutes. And part of me doesn't want to do it because I'm afraid of rejection, or I'm afraid he's not going to open it, or I'm afraid of being too pushy, or fill in the blank. But then I'm on the productivity week sheet that I have now, I put down those minutes. How long is this going to take me in minutes? It's going to take me 4 minutes. All right, for 4 minutes, I can do anything. And I'm going to send it out there, get it done, and then cross it off the list and move on to the next one. So by quantifying the actual time, it takes some of that overwhelm, that fear out of what we need to be doing.
Right.
And that has helped some of my folks.
Tremendous. Well, as we wrap up, I'm going to ask you 2 final questions. The final question is, how do people get connected and stay connected to Mary Kelly Land? Even before we get to that, the second to last question is, if people were to take one key concept out of all this brilliance that you shared, what would you hope that one central idea that they take with them would be?
So do it marketing and do everything David Newman says. Okay, that would be the key one. Okay.
Let's pick a second one too.
Okay, so the second one is plan your business to serve your clients and reach out to them in a way that works for them, that is service to them. And that works. And
wow,
then again,
I love that. One of the key questions that I sometimes ask my clients is, are your prospects better off just because you marketed to them? Without even buying anything yet, without hiring you to speak, without bringing you in as a consultant or a coach, are they better off just because you marketed to them and you sent them the valuable resources that you recommended, you sent them the articles, you acted as if you were hired even before you were hired, right?
That's exactly right. And even when I get turned down for a conference, or they say, you know what, and I get this all the time, and it's partly good. They say, You made it to our top 3, but we went with, lately I've been losing jobs to some of our friends who have a very different focus than mine.
Joe Schmuckatelli.
Well, yeah. Or they're like, oh, we went with a customer service expert, or we went with a humorist. Well, that's not me. So, I try to be funny, but I don't specialize necessarily in being funny. So I'm like, well, good. Then that's a great choice. And I'm very, very happy for you. And some people they do it sarcastically. They're like, well, that's a great choice. Good luck with that. You can't do that. Like, hey, you know what? They are a great choice. He or she, they're a great choice. And I'm looking forward to, the great reviews from your conference. And by the way, your audience members seem to be dealing with this, and here's an article on that. Please feel free to use that. And then we follow up with them every couple months. Hey, we thought of you about this. And then you're not being sour grapes. You're genuinely trying to be helpful. And this is where I think some people, again, view it like dating. Oh, you don't want to take me to prom? Fine. But wait a second. It's not about the one-shot deal. It's about long-term. Right. And I'm going to be in this business hopefully a long time. So this year, next year, year after, I don't care when they book me. It's fine.
I love it. You're going to outwork them, and now you're going to outlast them.
That's it. Outwork them and outlast them.
Awesome. Well, Mary Kelly, how do people get connected and stay connected to all of your fabulousness if they want to keep tabs on you and follow you and sign up for all your great stuff?
Well, as you know, David, I have a ton of free business resources. And based on some of the advice from you and some other people, I do have a secret vault on my website. And it is productiveleaders.com/vault, VAULT. And if they go there, they will get access. I will ask them for their email so I can stalk them forever, because what's the fun of business if you can't stalk your friends?
Of course.
And they get all kinds of the free 5-minute business plans, vision plans, productivity systems, all the things that my clients pay $197 for. They are free to your people.
Awesome. And we're going to put that in the show notes as well. So when people pop over to thespeakingshow.com and look at this episode, they will have all of Mary's links and social links and resources and the vault, and all of that's going to be linked up for you right here, right there. So Mary Kelly, thank you for being awesome. And I can't wait to have you back on the show.
Love it, David. Thank you so much. You are just a genius. And I love this podcast. I love that you're doing this for so many people. You're the rock star here. You're the rock star. You.
Can you come back next week? Can you come back every week?
Heck yeah.
Okay, let's do that. Yeah. Thank you.
And with bourbon. And with bourbon.
Count on it.
You bet.
Well, that wraps up another episode of The Speaking Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on iTunes. Subscribe. Tell a friend. Go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thespeakingshow.com. See you next time.